Well, hello again, and welcome again to another episode of Down to Earth but Heavenly Minded. And I'm your host, Irvish. And as we continue on today, we're still in the book of Leviticus in chapter 11, and we're going to be looking at a distinction between the clean and the unclean animals that were to be offered to the Lord to be eaten by the children of Israel. And God does make a distinction between the clean and unclean. And he makes a distinction between the Christian and the non-Christian, the saved and the unsaved, in the same manner. Well, anyway, let's just read our chapter. And the Lord spoke to Moses and Aaron, saying to them, Speak to the people of Israel, saying, These are the living things that you may eat among all the animals that are on the earth. You see, first of all, when we first started, we were vegetarians. We ate just plants and fruits and stuff. But now we're eating animals. We are not vegetarians, so uh, don't let anybody, fool you in thinking that. Now, whatever parts of the hoof and that is clothed, footed, and chews a cud among the animals you may eat. So there's a distinction. Nevertheless, among those that chew the cud and part the hoof, you shall not eat these: the camel, because it chews the cud, but does not part the hoof, is unclean to you. So don't eat a camel. I don't think I've ever eaten a camel. Then the rock badger, because it chews the cud, uh, but does not part the hoof, is unclean to you. And the hare, because it chews the cud and does not have a hoof, a part of the a hoof that parts. Well, anyway, is unclean to you. And the pig, because it parts the hoof, and the clove foot, it because I'm sorry, and the pig, because it parts the hoof and is a clove foot, but it does not chew the cud. It is unclean to you. You shall not eat any of the flesh, and you shall not touch the carcass that is, they are unclean to you. Now these you may eat. Before I go any further, I just want to mention that back then they didn't have refrigeration. And, some of these things that they're talking about here would have been very dangerous for them to try to eat it as well. So God not only was telling them what was clean and unclean, but he was protecting them as well. Just thought I'd throw that little thought in. Now, these you may eat of all that are in the waters, everything in the waters that have fins and scales, whether in the sea or in the rivers you may eat. But anything in the seas or the rivers that does not have fins or scales, of the swarming creatures, I'm sorry, but anything in the seas or in the rivers that does not have fins or scales, of the swarming creatures in the waters and of the living creatures, they are in the waters, it's detestable to you. You shall regard them as detestable. You shall not eat any of the flesh, and you shall detest their carcasses. Now, everything in the waters that does not have fins and scales is detestable to you. And these you shall detest among the birds. They shall not be eaten, and they are detestable: the eagle, the bearded vulture, the black vulture, the kite, the falcon of any kind, even ravens of any kind, or ostriches, or nighthawks, or seagulls, or hawks of any kind, the little owl, the short-eared owl, the badger owl, the tanned owl, the owl, the carrier vulture, the stork, the heron of any kind, a hooper or a bat, winged insects, all winged insects that go on all fours are detestable to you. Yet among the winged insects that go on all fours, you may eat these that have joint legs above their feet, with which hop on the ground. Of them you may eat the locust of any kind, the ball locust of any kind, the cricket of any kind, and the grasshopper of any kind. But all other winged insects that have 4 feet are detestable to you, and by these you shall become unclean. Whoever touches their carcass shall be unclean until the evening, and whoever carries any part of their carcass shall wash their clothes and be unclean until evening. Every animal that parts the hoof, but is not cloved foot, does not chew the cud, is unclean to you. Everyone who touches them shall be unclean. And all that walk on the paws among animals that go on all fours are unclean to you. Whoever touches the carcass shall be unclean until the evening, and whoever carries the carcass shall wash his clothes and be unclean till evening. These are unclean to you, and these are unclean to you among the swarming things that swarm on the ground, the mote, the rat, the mouse, the great lizard of any kind, the gecko, the monitor lizard, the sand lizard, and a chameleon. These are all unclean among you, all that swarm. Whoever touches them when they are dead shall be unclean until evening, and anything on which any of them fall when they are dead shall be unclean, whether it be an article of wood or a garment or a skin or a sack, any article that is used for any purpose. It must be put into the water, and it shall be unclean until evening, that it shall be clean. And if any of them fall into an earthenware, all that is in it shall be unclean, and you shall break it. Any food in it that could be eaten on which water comes shall be unclean, and all drink that could be drunk from every such vessel shall be unclean, and everything on which any part of these carcasses falls shall be unclean, whether oven or stove, it shall be broken in pieces. These are unclean and shall remain unclean for you. Nevertheless, the spring of the cistern holding water shall be clean, but whatever touches carcasses in them shall be unclean. And if any part of their carcasses fall upon the seed grain that is to be sown, it is clean. But if water is put on the seed, and any part of the carcasses fall on it, it is unclean to you. And if any animal which you may eat dies, whoever touches the carcass shall be unclean until evening, and whoever eats of the carcass shall wash his clothes and be unclean until evening, and whoever carries the carcass shall wash his clothes and be unclean until evening. Every swarming thing that swarms on the ground is detestable, and it shall not be eaten. Whatever goes in the belly, whatever goes on the belly, and whatever goes on all fours, or whatever has made feet, that swarming thing that swarms on the ground, you shall not eat, for it is detestable. You shall not make yourself detestable with any swarming thing that swarms, and you shall not defile yourself with any of them, because and become unclean through them. For I am the Lord your God. Consecrate yourself, therefore, and be holy, for I am holy. You shall not defile yourself with any swarming thing that crawls on the ground. For I am the Lord who brought you out of the land of Egypt to be your God. You shall therefore be holy, for I am holy. This is the law about the beasts and the birds and every living creature that moves through the waters, and every creature that swarms on the ground, to make a distinction between the unclean and the clean, and between the living creatures that may be eaten and the living creatures that may not be eaten. Wow, there's a lot in this chapter. There's a lot of things that were not to be eaten, and there was a lot of things that we could eat. And I know that there's a lot of these things that is talked about that I've ate. Not that I'm under the Mosaic law, but there's reasons for them not being able to eat this. God makes a distinction between these things, and when you think about it, there's no way that we've ever obeyed even the dietary laws. We have like I said, there's the moral laws, the dietary laws, and there's the laws of sacrifice. There's all these different laws. And I know that people that believe that they need to obey the law, there's impossible. If you even break one law, you broke the whole law. That's what the Bible teaches. So we're not saved by the law. And I'm so glad that we're not. Well, with that, I'm going to end our reading. It was a little longer this time, but I'll see you the next time. Bye for now.